During dinner, my sister said she was pregnant and that the father is my husband. But then I revealed a secret. We were at Alineia's Ascent, that 3-star Michelin restaurant in Chicago, the kind of place where every plate is a piece of art and the bill is more than most people's rent. I was celebrating. I'd just been made senior marketing director, but the air was thick, suffocating. I saw my sister, Ava, reach across the table and take my husband Ryan's hand. Then she smiled. That bright, self-satisfied smile. And made the announcement she was pregnant. And he was the father. Have you ever experienced a moment where your entire world collapsed in a single second? Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. My name is Ariana. I'm 29 years old. And this isn't the story of how my heart broke. It's the story of how I finally saw the truth. This wasn't new. Not really. The shock was just the fog clearing. I'd spent my entire adult life being the provider, the responsible one, the one everyone turned to, my sister. Ava, she's 27. She's a part-time social media manager, which really means she's a struggling influencer. I paid the rent on her trendy downtown apartment. I have to maintain the image. Ari, you get it, she'd say. I'd just nod and pay the bill. Then I'd listen to her complain over brunch I paid for, that I just got lucky. Lucky. I was lucky to work 80-hour weeks. I was lucky to hit every target. I was lucky to build a career from nothing while she posed for photos. And Ryan, my husband, he's a real estate broker. He's charming, handsome, and insecure. He made decent money. Sometimes, maybe $7,000 in a good month. But he couldn't stand that my new salary was $30,000. Every single month. He'd make little jokes. Must be nice not to worry about closing a deal. Easy for you to say. Ms. Big shot. It was passive-aggressive. A constant little needle. And the worst part, the sickest part, I felt guilty. It's called the provider's guilt. I read an article about it once. It's that deep, twisting knot in your stomach when you've worked your whole life to succeed, only to realize your success makes the people you love feel small. So what did I do? I overcompensated. I dimmed my own light. I spent more energy making them feel comfortable with my achievements than I ever spent actually celebrating them. I paid for the Michelin star dinners. I paid for the vacations they'd post on their social media. I bought Ryan cars he couldn't afford. Just to soothe his fragile ego, I became their safety net, their emergency fund, their bank, and my guilt. That stupid, misplaced guilt. It made me blind. It blinded me to the fact that I wasn't funding their dreams. I was funding their resentment. I wasn't just paying for Ava's apartment. I was paying for her to have the free time and the access to get close to my husband. I wasn't just soothing Ryan's ego. I was showing him, in agonizing detail, exactly what he stood to gain by destroying me. I wasn't a sister. I wasn't a wife. I was a resource, a target, and they had just made their move. I realized I'd been ignoring the signs for years. They weren't like thunder. They were like paper cuts. Small, stinging, and easy to ignore until you're bleeding. I remembered Ava asking, "So, Ari, what funds are you in exactly? Just curious. How much is your bonus really? I'm just trying to learn from my big sis." I remembered Ryan's sudden understanding of her. Ava's just struggling. Ari, she's creative. The world is tough on creatives. He defended her. He championed her. I remembered Ava's sudden visits to my penthouse. Always when I was on a business trip. "Just wanted to water your plants," she'd text. She wasn't watering plants. She was taking inventory. I saw it all clearly now. This wasn't a sudden, passionate affair. This was a hostile takeover. A long, slow, calculated campaign. I looked back at them. They were watching me. Waiting. Ryan looked nervous. But Ava looked triumphant. She was waiting for the screaming, the tears, the scene. She wanted to see me break. She wanted to prove to Ryan that I was the unstable one. So I did the one thing they never expected. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even speak. I just felt quiet. A cold, terrifying, beautiful clarity washed over me. The shock wasn't grief. It was just the noise in my head finally stopping. I picked up my purse. Ari, Ryan said, his voice suddenly uncertain. I put $200 bills on the table, more than enough to cover my share of the 20-course tasting menu. Then I stood up, smoothed down my dress, and I walked away. I didn't run. I walked, past the other diners, past the sommelier, past the maitre d' who held the door for me. I stepped out onto the cold Chicago street. The wind off the lake hit my face. And it felt like waking up. They thought that was my breakdown. They were wrong. That was my recalibration. I walked the 2 miles back to my penthouse. With every step, the fog of guilt I'd lived in for a decade burned away. The shock evaporated. The hurt receded. And something else took its place. Focus. This wasn't an affair. This was an invasion. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had tried to conquer me. They had come into my home, eaten my food, taken my money, and now they were trying to take my life. By the time I pressed the elevator button for the penthouse, my penthouse, the one I'd bought with my money, I wasn't a victim. I was a strategist. And I was about to go to war. When I got back to the penthouse, I saw his shoes by the door, his favorite Nikes, and I saw Ava's jacket, the one I'd paid for, thrown over my chair. My home? They had brought their betrayal into my home. The air smelled faintly of her perfume. This wasn't an affair. This was an occupation, an invasion. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked past the living room, down the hall to my home office. There's a large, abstract painting on the wall, a splash of chaotic blue and gold. I pushed it aside. Behind it, a small wall safe. My fingers were perfectly steady as I entered the code. I didn't reach for the jewelry. I didn't reach for the emergency cash. I reached for a thick, legal-sized envelope I hadn't touched in 5 years. Ariana, Ryan prenuptial agreement. The memory was so clear. It felt like static. Me, at 24, in my lawyer Jennifer's high-rise office. Jennifer, all sharp blazers and sharper intellect, slid the document across the glass table. Ariana, this is non-negotiable. She'd said, you're building an asset base. Protect it. I remembered Ryan, sitting next to me, scrolling through sports scores on his phone. He laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. Babe, this is so unromantic, he said, not even looking up. It's just a formality. Right. Like rich people stuff. I remember telling him it was just procedure. He didn't read a single page. He just flipped to the end, signed his name with a flourish, and said, all right, all done. Can we go get brunch? He signed his own eviction notice, and he was only worried about mimosas. Now, I sat on my sofa, and I read the words he'd ignored. I read them aloud to the empty room, all property, real and personal, owned by each party prior to the marriage. And all income, assets, and appreciation earned during the marriage shall remain the separate property of the acquiring spouse. My $30,000 a month salary, mine. My stock portfolio, mine. The marital residence. I whispered, reading the next clause. Having been purchased solely with the funds of Ariana, is and shall remain her separate property, regardless of any perceived marital contribution. Mine. And then, the final, beautiful, devastating line. Both parties do hereby fully and irrevocably waive any and all right to spousal support, alimony, or maintenance from the other party, now and forever. He got nothing. Not a single dollar from my $1.2 million net worth. Not a single square foot of my $850,000 penthouse. Not a single cent of alimony. Nothing. I held that document. This wasn't an unromantic formality. This was a suit of paper armor. And it had just saved my entire life. Ryan had signed his exit strategy 5 years ago, and he didn't even know it. The next morning, I called Jennifer. My voice was calm, clear. Jen, it's Ariana. It's happening. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Ari. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'm fantastic. Jen, I need you to pull the file, the prenup. I have it right here, she said, her voice shifting instantly from friend to lawyer. It's ironclad. Ariana, he signed away everything. We can have him served by 5 p.m. No, I said. Pause. No, what do you mean? No, he betrayed you. We file. We freeze him out. We change the locks. We will, I said, walking to my floor to ceiling windows, looking out over Lake Michigan, but not yet. Right now, we wait. Wait, Ari. That's not the legal advice This isn't legal. Jen, this is strategy. I'm not hurt. I'm analyzing. I'm trying to understand the competition. And in that moment, I finally did. I finally understood why. It's what psychologists call the zero-sum game fallacy. Ava and Ryan. They live in a world of scarcity. They believe that for them to win, I have to lose. They look at my life, my success, my penthouse, my happiness, and they don't see the work. They don't see the sacrifice. They only see something taken from them. They don't know how to create their own value. They don't know how to bake their own cake. They only know how to steal someone else's. My success wasn't an inspiration to them. It was an insult. My $30,000 salary didn't make them want to work harder. It made them feel entitled to my money. This whole thing, the affair, the pregnancy, it wasn't a crime of passion. It was a business plan. It was a clumsy, desperate attempt at wealth redistribution. They thought they had found the ultimate loophole to my success. They just didn't know I had a contract that made their entire plan worthless. Jen, I said, my voice cold. They are expecting me to be a wreck. They are waiting for me to call them. Crying, begging, offering them a settlement to make this go away. So, what's the plan? Jennifer asked. The plan is silence. I'm not going to be the hysterical, heartbroken wife. I'm going to be a black hole. I'm going to disappear. I'm not going to answer their calls. I'm not going to respond to their texts. I'm not going to serve them papers. What will that do? She asked. It will make them panic. I said, Right now, they think they hold all the cards. They think they have the leverage. My silence will show them their hand is empty. They'll get sloppy. They'll get scared. They'll expose exactly what they're after. And when they do, that's when we strike. Ariana, Jennifer said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. You're terrifying. No, I replied. I'm just a good strategist. They wanted a war. They just didn't realize I'm the one with all the weapons. I hung up, and I waited. The silence in the penthouse was absolute, and for the first time in my life, it felt like power. It worked faster than I imagined. My silence became a vacuum, one they rushed to fill with panic. The first text came 24 hours later. Ryan Ari. This is childish. We need to talk. Then, Ava, you can't ignore us. This is a family matter. I ignored them. Day 2 calls. Dozens. The voicemails were revealing. Ryan, pick up, you can't lock me out. We need to divide things. I have rights. There it was, divide. Not remorse. Not guilt. Just entitlement. Ava chimed in. We need to handle the apartment and accounts. Let's be adults. Their fear wasn't losing me. It was losing access to my money. After 72 hours, I sent a single text to Ryan. I'm broken. I need time. He replied instantly. Finally, we need to meet. I waited another day, then sent. You're right. We need to talk about the assets. He took the bait, but I had one condition, not your office. I want to go back to where it happened. Alinia's Ascent. My treat? He agreed in seconds. Of course he did. Saturday night. I arrived first and chose the table. When they walked in, they looked smug, victorious. Ryan had a new watch. Ava glowed, hand on her stomach like she was already cashing checks. We ordered the most expensive champagne on me. They thought we were celebrating their win. After 2 courses, Ryan slid a typed document across the table. His proposal: 50% of the penthouse, 50% of investment accounts, $10K divided by month support until the child turned 18. Ava added, we're not trying to take everything, just what's fair. I smiled. Slowly, from my purse, I pulled out a notarized prenup and placed it beside their list. This, I said, is the reality. Ryan went pale. What is that? The prenup you signed without reading? Complete separation of property. No shared assets. No spousal support. My salary. My accounts. My $850K penthouse. All mine. Ava sputtered, but the baby. Irrelevant legally. Ryan's panic ignited into chaos. Ryan, Ava hissed. Fix this. Fix what? He exploded. Loud enough for the restaurant to fall silent. We have nothing, she has it all. Ava's face drained as he continued spiraling. And he shouted at her. How are we supposed to live when you have $150? 0 inches credit card debt. She froze. He finally realized she'd been using him to reach my money. The two of them stared at each other, betrayed, exposed. Undone, I stood, placed enough cash on the table to cover my meal, and said, my peace, my home, my money. They are not assets in your negotiation. They are sacred boundaries, and neither of you belong inside them. I walked out, leaving them with the bill and the ruins of their schemes. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of my new penthouse. I'd sold the old one for a 7-figure profit. My net worth? passed 4 million. Ryan and Ava are now busy suing each other, dragging each other through the mud. Here's what I learned. Protecting yourself isn't pessimistic. It's self-respect. Some people see your light and want to share it. Others want to steal your fire. Your job is to build a fireplace and choose who's allowed in